Oh, is this thing still on? Oh, it is! Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Been a minute, sorry. I know I've said this a few times in the last half a year to year, but I didn't plan to be away for as long as I have been. I put the offline mode video out, and in the month plus since that video went out, we have not had any news about it. Are you surprised? No, me neither. But in that time, I went away for a week with friends just to have a bit of a chill bit of time off. Then I had COVID on the way back from that, which wasn't great. It's about the fourth or fifth time I've had that at this point. And then after that, I did plan to come back and catch up on a few bits of news that had already happened. But I'll be honest, my motivation to play Payday 3 or talk about it is the lowest it's been in a long time, if not the lowest it ever has been. I did a stream last Wednesday because I just got to the point where I hadn't streamed or done a video in ages and went, right, I need to do something. Let's start with something people would be really interested in, talking about Payday 3 stuff. And if you've watched that stream, I couldn't even bring myself to play it after reading the stuff that I'd seen was going on with Starbreeze. So my motivation is really shot at, and that's probably why the title of this video feels a little bit different. And so before we get into everything and catch you all up and I explain exactly how this is going to work, just let me know in the comments, how are you currently feeling about Payday 3? Are you playing the game much? Are you playing it a lot? Are you not really that bothered to play it? Is the Starbreeze stuff putting you off as much as it's putting me off? I just generally be intrigued to see what is going on in the audience in the last month or so, because I've not said much to you guys, and I apologise for that. Literally one stream and no videos across March, so I really apologise for that, and I'm going to do my best to do a little bit better this month, both Payday and non-Payday. I've been promising a Sonic 06 video, which I know not everyone's going to be interested in, but if you want to give it a try, please consider doing so. It will go out early for members, hopefully next week, and then I'll put it out publicly a day or two later. Editing Troy here, adding a few things into this video before it goes out. A lot of this video is going to be negative. It's just the nature of it because not a lot is happening in the Payday sphere right now that is good. But there is something I do want to talk about that is quite nice, which is Almir has confirmed that there are 2 heists in development. One is apparently in the final stages, and we'll see when it will be ready, and the second is still in initial development. So they are working on heists even with the skeleton crew. A point I make a lot later on, though, is the fact that this information has to be shared via someone keeping track on Reddit. Thank you, Mage, for that. I think it's a bit of a joke. That should be something Payday should be shouting about on the rooftops on their Twitter, and they're not doing that. You know, Almir's saying that if players don't like something, they shouldn't keep quiet. We're not. We're telling everyone what the problems are, but no one's doing anything about it. But I do think it's nice to share this because I think it is a nice, positive thing. But something else I do also want to share is the voice and technically former face based on Payday 2's Payday 3. But either way, Chains himself, Damion Poitier, reached out to me and asked if I could help at all with a fundraiser he's got going. And I just wanted to put it at the front of this video with a link in the description if you want to help. You've no doubt seen the endless gifs of him with his horse. They're shared at least a lot in the Payday spaces. But he's noted that his horse is suffering from a couple of very concerning conditions, PSS, M1 and DLSLD. He explains the gist of them down there. I'll leave that for you to read. But he's looking to try and help his horse and also make a documentary about the horse and the conditions and what horses mean to him and just people in general. It's a really valid cause, and he's just a lovely guy. You've seen him on this channel a few times, and I'd love to support him in any way I can. So please, if you're able to support this GoFundMe, the link will be in the description. I'll put it right near the top. Go and support him as best you can if you are able to. But either way, let's get into the video. Not going to be nearly as positive as the heist news, but there's a lot I want to talk about, and just generally regarding the dismay I have right now at Payday 3, so let's get into it. So I'm going to kind of run things through on a more kind of speedy, let's get the key points basis and cover the most important stuff that's happened from the middle of March right up until today as we approach the middle of April. But if you are new to the channel and you fancy staying in tune for more content, be it Payday or non-Payday, please feel free to click subscribe. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And while you're down there, click the like button. It's free to do, and it really does help support the channel, and it helps get the video out to other fans of Payday. Now, first off, as you can see on the screen, we have the confirmation that the Payday creator Starbreeze has laid off the entire French team. At this point, I think it's fair to say we're pretty much beyond the take this with a grain of salt approach. My main reason for saying that all this time was because, you know, you have internal messages shared. It's not impossible. There could be little bits of misinformational things in them, and I don't want to be so firm on articles to say this has definitely happened if there is a chance something's gone wrong or something's been miscommunicated. But we're at the point now where I'm like, do you even need to say take a grain of salt anymore? It feels as though this is absolutely happening the way it's being reported. So as reported by Theodore McKenzie, who's been reporting all the Payday stuff here on 80 Level, head of content of the platform. Over the past couple of months, we've been extensively covering the silent layoffs taking place at Starbreeze, the developer of the Payday franchise, including reporting on the company quietly firing around 15% of the staff and plans to terminate the French division, which is a very vital division. If you haven't heard the news until now, the division of Starbreeze working in France play a crucial role in the technical side of production pipeline and largely have the responsibility of patches and DLCs in the company's games. So in other words, if you don't have these staff, then making patches and DLCs for the game is going to be a lot harder, even harder than it was when Starbreeze gutted their staff and budget at the end of 2024. I say it with a smile now because at this point I'll just cry. It's not a good group of people to lay off, so all the rumours about this did not sound good because that just put Starbreeze in an even worse position. Well, it's pretty much just happened exactly as we thought. An anonymous Starbreeze employee reached out to 80 Level with even more evidence of discussions in the company's Slack channels. It's like a business version of Discord, revealing that it was announced within the company last week more than half of the French employees are being dismissed by the end of March, while the remaining ones are set to be let go by June. So some of them are just gone already, some of them are hanging around till June, but the entire French division, from the look of it, by the end of June, the start of summer, there'll be no Starbreeze employees in France. They say that it's for economic reasons within the company, but don't go into a lot of detail. What a shocker. And then once again, we have some shared excerpts from the Slack chat in the nature of the fact that there was an all-hands meeting for Starbreeze on March 13th. But in that all-hands meeting, the French team wasn't invited, so none of the French staff. So bear in mind, the earliest they were being laid off was the end of March, so all of them were still currently working at Starbreeze, regardless of when their termination began, and not inviting them to an all-hands-on-deck meeting was a violation of 3 different articles of France's Code of Work, I think is Travail. I probably should have looked that up, but either way, it's a French code of ethics, basically, and it's violating that. And once again, I mean, look, we're at a point now, Mats Hjul is no longer the interim CEO, we'll get to that in a minute, but he was the interim CEO at the time of these articles happening, and we've already seen reports of Mats Hjul being more concerned about where people question his decisions than the actual decisions themselves. If you remember, we've talked previously about layoffs where people have popped up in their Slack channels and said, what's going on with these layoffs, can you talk about them? And he's gone, this is not the right channel, don't talk in general chat equivalent about these, go and speak in a private channel. In other words, making it seem very much like he's more bothered that most people don't see what's happening rather than actually confronting it. And once again, we have a message that was put in the Slack channel that was shared with 80 Level. Again, take with a grain of salt if it needs saying. I don't think it does at this point, but I'm just going to say it just to cover in case there's something wrong here. But someone did put in the Slack channel, since this meeting covers topics that directly impact ongoing projects, why are we not in this meeting, basically? It violates an article. What is the legal justification for this exclusion? Mats replied with the following: I'm available to clarify via phone or Slack or email if there are any legal concerns regarding my decision on who to invite to an internal meeting. Well, there clearly are. They just said that. Our internal Slack channel crew is not the appropriate way to have this kind of discussion, and this discussion ends here. Thanks. And the developer replied, it's the perfect and most appropriate medium to do clarifications considering you owe us and the entire company an explanation. And if you want to be fully transparent, I can't think of a better medium. But after the conversation, apparently the Slack account of that French employee who dared to question Matt's reply was simply deactivated. So that was it. The account was just switched off. So it's not going very well in Starbreeze. It's a bit of a mess. You can read this article if you wish to get more information, but that's the general gist. The French team, who are responsible for a lot of the vital work going on at Starbreeze, especially with Payday 3, some of them are already gone. The rest are going to be gone in 2 months' time. It's not a very good look for the company or for the careers of those people. But as I mentioned earlier, Mats Hjul is no longer the interim CEO because now we have, that's the wrong page, sorry, I did that for dates, Adolf Kristjansson, who is appointed not as the interim CEO, but the new fully fledged CEO of Starbreeze, and he took over the role as of April 1st, 2025. We'll get into the actual article of this in a minute, but I did think it was worth noting that Theodore again put an article up on 80 Level the day this was announced. So it was announced on the 31st of March, he took over the day after, on April 1st, April Fool's Day. But he made a very valid point that I do think it's worth noting. They named the new CEO the same day the French office gets shut down, and half of the staff, roughly, are laid off. And it was a point that we also went into a bit more detail on Twitter. I had a bit of a discussion with Theodore in a reply to a post from Noli about the new CEO, and he noted that the moment the appointment was announced internally, some of the devs bombarded his DMs to highlight how absolutely ridiculous it was to make the announcement on the same day most of the French team was set to lose their jobs. And that one employee mentioned they think it was done deliberately to overshadow the closure of the French office, and based on the way he's worded this article and the way he's presented it, I think he also agrees that, as he said, he's going with that theory. I think it definitely implies there was some intention there, and I honestly would not disagree. I think there's definitely some very interesting timing there for sure. But let's go back to the actual article itself, just go over some stuff very briefly, because I do want to talk about this. Some people have been talking about the fact that this might be a better CEO than Matt's or a worse one, and I've been asked a few times about my opinion, so I want to reiterate what I said on my stream in a shorter and less waffly fashion. It was noted that he'd spent over 2 decades in the gaming industry, held roles working with some of the most renowned gaming IPs like FIFA, Battlefield, Apex, and Star Wars. I can't find it anywhere specific in this article where I've looked online, but it sounds as though he was working more with the finance section of the executive levels when EA released Star Wars Battlefront 2, which, if you remember, was not very well received for its microtransaction scandal. I don't know how true that is, because like I said, I couldn't find a source myself, so take that definitely with a grain of salt. But the thing that I think is most interesting is plucking out the statement he made himself. I joined Starbreeze with great enthusiasm for the company's current and future projects, not least the upcoming Dungeons & Dragons title. Notice how the first thing he prioritizes is Baxter. no change to normal. I look forward to continuing the work of expanding the Payday franchise further and building Starbreeze into a true multi-title studio. It's the Payday franchise. He doesn't say Payday 3. This, again, is exactly in tune with what Matt Yule was doing, trying to leverage the IP for everything it was worth, milk the cow dry, but not actually support the current, most recent game people have been begging for them to actually put some love and support into, that the devs have been trying to do with Operation Medibag, but now the entire development floor has been gutted from that game. They're not able to do it. So to me, they're just clearly thinking, well, the Payday IP is worth something, let's make the most of that, let's go talk to PUBG, but not prioritize Payday 3. This seems no different to me than what Matt's was doing. Most of all, I look forward to working closely with our talented teams that are engaging our passionate player community as we build the next chapter of Starbreeze together. I hope that he means this, but based on the previous sentences that seem very much in tune with Matt's, this feels like it's not true at all and it's just some buzzwords, because if you were working with your passionate player community, you'd be talking to them more, you'd be listening to their feedback, and you'd be trying to build on it. The devs are trying their best to make a good game, but if they're not given the support from the higher-ups, they're not able to do that, and the devs and the players are all concerned about the future of Payday. It's very, very clear to see, and the executives for too long have been ignoring the comments and complaints we've been making. It just, to me, feels, if you're asking the question of, is this CEO going to be any better, I don't think there's going to be any notable change. I think it's going to be the same kind of stuff that Matt was working on, but I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than words, so we will have to just, as Palpatine said in Star Wars, watch his career with great interest, see what exactly he does as he takes control of Starbreeze and where the company goes in the next few months, and I think that will speak louder than any theories we can make. But as of right now, I'm not expecting any notable change, other than the fact that he's clearly a fan of AI-generated art, because I noted that my former Starbreeze fellow Starbreeze partner, John Toughcook of the Rusty Chains group, noted that he'd been posting AI art on his LinkedIn, and this was the picture. And I have verified it, as you can see here, on his LinkedIn profile. He posted this art a week ago to note that it was his first day as the CEO of Starbreeze Entertainment, so this is taken from his LinkedIn, it's not made up. So, I mean, if I have to explain the whole thing about AI art, then I think I'm going to be wasting my breath here. A lot of you already know the problems with that and why it's a very, very hot topic in the gaming industry, more so that people just shouldn't be using it. AI is definitely useful for games. I mean, AI enemies in games. There are ways to use AI that is beneficial, but ways that remove employment and rob people of jobs and rob people of their work, not so much the right way to use it. So either Adolf has no idea of the fuss that Payday 3 had when it came out, and it was discovered that under the surface, the art gallery heist did use AI in a lot of the paintings. It was an outsourced team, I believe, who made the heist, but they did use AI for those paintings. I've mentioned this before, but it was told to partners that it was not AI. The art was generated to look like it was AI generated as a spoof of it, but it came out a few months later based on a page, I think, on ArtStation, that it was outsourced, and in the process, AI was used to make that. So either Adolf doesn't know about that and doesn't know about the backlash it faced, or he knows and doesn't care, because a lot of people at the executive level don't seem to care about the dangers of AI art. It's not exactly a new thing. So that's the only thing that I haven't seen Matt's doing that is worse, but as I've seen before, I don't really see much of a change happening with this new CEO. Matt's was the interim CEO. I had this up just for dates. For nearly a year, he took over on May 15th, 2024, and now we have Adolf as of 1st of April, 2025. So we'll just see where it goes. There are 3 more things I'd like to cover, and I'm going to go over them very, very quickly. First off, the Plaion agreement with Starbreeze to co-publish Payday 3 has ended. Now, we don't know what the consequence of this is because it hasn't actually been announced, but the agreement was 18 months. It should have taken us up until the 18th or 21st of March 2025, depends on how you hold it. Could be that the business agreement applied to the end of the month maybe, so the end of March 2025, but we are now firmly out of that month, and there has been no word from Starbreeze or Plaion as to the future of that agreement. Has it been renewed? Has it been cancelled? We don't know, but that initial agreement is over. I've tried to do some digging into it. If you look on Payday 3's Steam page, it still says it's published by Deep Silver, so it's not changed for Starbreeze to self-publish. The only notable thing is if you go on the games page for Deep Silver, Payday 3 is not there. It's not on the page anymore, which suggests it might not be part of Plaion's catalogue anymore, part of Deep Silver's catalogue, but I think if you go to the homepage, if I remember correctly, Payday 3 does still appear, yeah, so it's kind of hard to know what's going on there. I did try to go in the Wayback Machine to look at an older version of the games page, but it just won't load for some reason properly, so there's no way to know for sure if Payday 3 was originally there. Someone in my live stream claimed that it was, but I'd rather present evidence to you all, and I don't have that, unfortunately. So who knows what's going on with Plaion? Hopefully, whatever the resolution is the right one for the company. I don't really know what the best one to be at this point. We'll just see where that goes. Either Plaion's pulled the plug, or Starbreeze have told them they don't want to work with them, or they've both said, let's carry on working. We just don't know. It could be anything, and I don't want to presume anything further. Next up, I also do want to bring up this little point here. It was a tweet I made about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Almir mentioned on a live stream, one of these Play with Almirs on the Payday YouTube channel, that the Payday 3 skill overhaul is not currently in the works. Now, I have a clip here. I can link the tweet below. I'm not going to play the full thing because there's no need, because I want to debunk this and just give my thoughts on it. But I'm bringing it up for a very specific reason. So he says in this video, skills rework, he wants it to happen, but it's not currently happening. The roadmap states that it's one of the only 2 things actually happening that year currently. But I do argue underneath, I do think it's Almir misspeaking. And I honestly do think that. With all respect to him, as it says in this tweet, he has said things that have come off wrong before or been, misinterpretations of how he actually feels. The whole "we need you now, not in a couple of years" thing was from a place of passion, even though it came across very wrong to a lot of people. So I don't really think it's something worth being too concerned over. But the problem is, all Starbreeze need to do is be more communicative about what's going on. All it takes is for them to make a tweet after the stream and say, "Heisters, there's some confusion about what's going on with the skill system," just to confirm it is in fact happening. There was a miscommunication from Almir in the stream. I'm sure Almir wouldn't mind owning up to that. He's owned up to a lot of stuff in the past, including saying Payday 2 would never have microtransactions. He's dealt with a lot worse in the past, and I think just generally this lack of willingness to report what's shared in streams and it being relegated to people in the Reddit community to report what's been talked about is just a real shame. There's so little in the way of communication from Starbreeze at the minute because literally nothing's being talked about, not even offline mode, which 2 months ago was meant to be talked about in the coming weeks. Or no, is it 3 months ago now? Oh, I'm losing track. It's been so long at the point now that they are not talking about the things that are key and need to be discussed, and the fact that they refuse to talk about stuff on any interesting level or any informative level for their audience, it only serves to make things worse. It genuinely just serves to make things worse. So I hope they can get a bit more communicative. All it takes is for someone to release a couple of key points from a stream at the end of a stream. Here are the key things we talked about in the stream today, Heisters, in case you're interested. Even if more of them are jokes than others, just say something to your audience, If you look at the Payday Twitter, all it is just someone retweeting and going, or let me retweet some fan art or talk about, which is great, don't get me wrong, but there's nothing actually interesting or informational being shared. Informative is the right word, sorry, being shared on here. This is a place where you could try and keep the audience engaged, but instead it's just, let's post a couple of memes. I don't think it's necessarily that, they don't want to. I think there's probably some kind of chokehold going on. Maybe the same reason that they won't talk about offline mode, the same reason that we don't know what's going on with Plaion and Starbreeze's agreement. I think there's just a general breakdown in communication, presumably at the highest levels, that is stopping people working on the community teams, etc., from talking. I think that's the more likely thing. But I wanted to bring that up because, as I said, the point of just not enough communication is also wearing me down a little bit. And the final thing I wanted to bring up, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you're going to love this one to no end, PUBG actually shared a roadmap in the middle of March for 2025. They put out their roadmap and they shared what's coming for 2025. But there is one point I do want to focus on a little bit further down in the article. We're also exploring new ways to create high-quality, well-crafted modes through co-development with external studios. Project Cyclops is part of this initiative, clearly something they're working on. Oh, you can see up here something else. But we're targeting the first half of next year, so it won't launch this year, and that is the Payday mode developed in collaboration with Starbreeze Entertainment. If you remember, a quarter of Starbreeze's devs were siphoned off to work with Krafton on this Payday mode for PUBG, and now we know that is going to take longer than a year because it was announced at the end of 2024, and they're targeting the first half of 2026 for its release. That means it could be up to 18 months until the mode comes out from the point this was announced. That's a lot of Starbreeze devs that could have been put to work helping with Payday 3 that instead got pushed over to work on a PUBG mode for Payday. Now, look, I don't want to suggest in any way that devs working on this are not enjoying themselves or thinking they can create something good. The devs at Starbreeze are passionate people and they do the best they can with what they're given. But is it the right use of those resources? I don't think I need to say it. I think we all know the answer is, in fact, no. But I just thought I'd share that with you because I noticed that and just thought it was worth reporting. So that quarter of the Starbreeze dev team, or at this point it's worth more than a quarter considering the layoffs going off in France. Maybe it's more like a third of the dev team now. But that dev team is now completely out of reach for anything actually Payday 3 related or Payday 2 related or anything else for the next roughly 12 months. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is everything I wanted to cover with this. And like I said, all of this together, the new CEO, who just seems to be Matt Yule again, maybe with added AI art, no information as to the Plaion and Starbreeze agreement, whether it's been renewed or terminated, no information on offline mode, Armor 2.0 still does not have a release date. It was meant to come out in December. We're in April. We have no information with that as well. It's just an absolute mess with no communication and nothing to talk about. And it's genuinely at the point now where just talking about this game to people depresses me a little bit. And I know what the reaction to that is going to be, we'll stop talking about it. Don't worry, I honestly plan to. I think until there's actual news about Payday, I don't really have much desire to talk about this game. I will keep reporting the news, as I've always said, but I just, Part of me wants to do like mini Payday videos. What are the best heists? What's the best soundtracks? Or my loud build I said I would do about 6, 7, 8 months ago. But I just don't have any care to make anything about Payday 3 while the game is being treated so poorly. So to Adolf, if you are watching this video, if you're still watching it, you said that you look forward to working closely with your talented teams and engaging your passionate player community. If you want to engage your passionate player community, show that you care about the game people are most interested in. Be aware that while you might give a lot of a damn about Baxter and maybe you're trying to cash in on the Baldur's Gate 3 hype, even though that probably is already a little less relevant than it was a year ago, it's not what your audience cares most about. They are here for Payday. That's what they've supported you most through all the trouble that Starbreeze has had. The last 3 games you've released have all in some way or shape been flops. Overkill's The Walking Dead literally nearly closed the studio altogether. Raid World War 2 was released to a lukewarm reception, and while there are some really talented devs working on that of their own volition at this point, it still was not a success for Starbreeze. And on top of that, Payday 3, to Matt Zule's own admission, has not been a profitable game in the first year of development. So you only have flops behind you. Payday 2 is what you're known for. Payday 3 should have been Payday 2 all over again, but modernized. Not the exact same game, but I mean that same level of success, and it wasn't. So if you think releasing a game that isn't Payday is going to be some guaranteed success, then I don't know what metrics you're holding them to. I'd love to see them if you ever wants to reach out, but I just don't think that you guys and your audience see eye to eye. And I think the sooner that you actually listen and talk to the community and communicate more with what's going on in the studio, the sooner we'll be able to appreciate the studio again. All I do right now is worry for the devs and the people working in that company who are being mistreated by the decisions that are done at the top. And I just hope at some point that I can stop worrying about that. I hope at some point I can go back to being like, here are the things coming for Payday 3 in the next few months. Even if I'm saying it's taking a while, but we're getting there. I just miss being at least somewhat optimistic. People say that Payday 3 has been a combination of, we're so back, it's so over, we're so back, it's so over. We haven't had a we're so back in a while. First World Bank was pretty good, but that didn't even get the best reception. Jacket, sure, fair enough, that was very well received, but what have you got before that? You know what I mean? It's been a while since we've had a real notable win. And even since Jacket, that was 2 months ago. And we don't even know when Arma 2.0 is coming out. So we're really in need of a win as a community. And that's why I made the video the way that I have here, because I just don't personally feel that interested to talk about Payday 3 at the minute. I like to do weekly Payday streams, and maybe I'll go back to doing like Payday 2 stuff. I might do that. But I just kind of wanted to check back in and share my dismay, and also just get myself out of this rut of lack of motivation, because I do want to make other videos and talk about other things, even if it's not Payday. I hope that people stick around for it, as I've said already. I know not everyone's interested in that, but all I say is give it a chance. And if you're not interested, just stick around with the Payday stuff. As I've said, I'll keep reporting the news as it comes out. So the next notable thing that happens, whether it's in a few days, a few weeks, a few months, I'll be here to report it. Thank you all as always for the support, and thank you for your patience as I was away for so long. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you all very, very soon with a new video. Until then, look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.